The Enterprise has arrived at a communication relay station near the Klingon border. Morag has been getting more and more aggressive lately, and Aquiel misses Muskin Seed Punch. Hello, everybody, and welcome to The Seventh Rule with Sirach Lofton.
Hello, hello.
My name is Ryan T. Husk, and today we are doing a review of Star Trek The Next Generation Season 6, Episode 13, you guessed it, Aquiel. Story by Legendary Group. Story by Jerry Taylor. Teleplay by Brandon Braga and Ronald D. Moore. Directed by the guy they named Bolians after, Cliff Bole. This was January 30th, 1993. Where were you and how are you, Sirach?
You said January 30th?
Yeah, 1993.
I think we were like DS9 was just hitting the air, I think, right around there.
Yeah. It was you guys were just dropping your 4th episode, actually. Yeah.
Yeah.
Wow.
We were just hitting the wave. So yeah, that's where I was. I was watching the response to the work that we kind of put in.
That's cool.
At that point.
Everybody, please make sure you like this video, subscribe to the channel, hit the bell icon for notifications. If you're listening in, give us a 5-star rating and a nice review. We'd really appreciate that. And visit us at patreon.com/the7th-rule. That's patreon.com/the7th-rule to support the show and help us out. Be our pals. All right. So, Sirach Lofton, you've never seen this episode before, but I'll tell you, it's kind of legendary in a lot of ways. But before we get into all that stuff, Sirach, what did you think of this particular episode?
You know what? I actually was happy that Geordi was getting an episode. So that was one of the first things that I was happy about. It was a Geordi episode.
Mm-hmm.
It was also a murder. I knew right away we're going to get a murder mystery kind of whodunit type of, episode where we have clues and we're trying to figure out things. So that's another kind of template of Star Trek episodes. These murder mystery kinds of episodes. So which I'm a fan of. I enjoy because I like a good mystery, a good whodunit. So that was the initial feeling. Plus we had a dog, and I was like, oh, that's cool. We got a dog in the show, So they opened with the pooch, and I also kind of have a warm spot in my heart for those. So that just kind of softened everything up and made me feel like, okay, I'm ready for whatever this journey is going to be. I'm ready for this.
Cute dog too. I actually thought of you a lot in this episode, Sirach Lofton, because I have a poster of you on my ceiling. I just kind of gaze. Right. No, but because I know what you were thinking, like when it first started out, you're thinking like, oh no, is Geordi going to fall in love with another fake person again? Because like this poor Geordi can't catch a break. Because it's like it's all well documented what his situation is. We're now into the 6th season. Maybe things are changing. And here he is snooping around somebody's personal logs again and falling in love and calling her by her first name. And Riker's like, why are you calling this person by her? Well, she's quirky and cute and she makes the best hot cocos or whatever. We're like, oh, Geordi, man, come on.
Yeah, Geordi, find a real girl. Because, the last time he was in love with that scientist whose program he kept running.
Leah Brahms, yeah.
Leah Brahms. And then he got exposed for that because she found the programs and she didn't like that, right? So, he looked like such a creep going through her, kind of putting her up in his personal program profile. So, he already has that history, right? And we've already seen that before where it didn't end well. Plus, we've seen him on that date in the holodeck one time. I think he was on a beach program.
Yeah, with the Coco No-Nos.
Yeah, and that didn't work out well for him either. Which by the
violinist was like stealing his woman, his programmed lady.
Exactly. Exactly. I mean, it was so bad that even Wesley was like clowning him. So like this is
That's right. I forgot about that. He's like, at least my
and
idea of a good time isn't a good book or
it was something like that. It was even Wesley was clowning. That's how bad it was
That's
for him.
messed up, man.
So we've talked about like O'Brien must suffer episodes, but in the category of love and relationships, it's Jordy must suffer,
Yeah.
right?
Now, the other side of that, though, is because while you're saying that, I was thinking, well, what about Barkley? Barkley's so bad, he creates like fantasy programs just to have people like him and women caress his hair. But I was like, but you know what? At least Barkley, at least Barkley knows what he's doing. He's like, yeah, I can't get any ladies, so I'm just gonna, and my friends don't like me, and my coworkers, whatever. So I'm just gonna
Yeah.
go on this fantasy thing and accept it and whatever. Whereas Jordy, he's still trying. He's still giving it a shot.
Yeah, and it's just like it, it 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 was a little bit sad to watch in the beginning, like when he was just watching the replays and whatnot, and he's talking to the screen in some
Mm-hmm.
way. You know, when you start watching a movie or something and you're talking to the screen,
For me, it's
it looked like
sports. I
yeah,
talk to the,
yeah,
yeah.
in
I'm the
sports you talk
assistant
to.
coach. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. And he was talking to the screen. I'm like, oh god,
He's already gone.
he's already gone. So yeah, that was like, and then it also made me think. Just this is a random tangent, but it's still relevant, and that is the extent to which personal logs are personal.
Yeah,
Like
totally.
it made me think like, oh, how personal of a personal log would some people create under if you think that this is not going to be seen by anybody, for example. I don't know if all your communications are subject to scrutiny, like if you work for the government and you got accused of espionage or something like that. They can go through
Mm-hmm.
all of your
Well, look,
emails and all of your phones, right?
even now, if somebody gets killed, they're going to look through their phone.
Right.
If
They're gonna look right.
if you're a suspect in something, they do what is it called, discovery. They look through your phone records. They do like so. We're there. Like
Right, we're already there with the
Star Trek
personal
was
logs,
not
yeah.
far off there. Yeah.
But then, just like you just mentioned, so you're you're under investigation, and they're going through your personal pictures and phones, right? There's a lot of people with phone stuff in their phones, the personal stuff like photos and things of that nature, videos, where they may not want anybody to see, right? That's like literally their personal stuff.
Right.
And
Also,
what I'm
because in
yeah,
if you are looking through somebody's personal log, even if they're deceased, you might be invading someone else's privacy. Like, what if somebody else was messaging them some personal, private things that they could only tell them? And now you're reading about them and they're like, hey, leave me out of this. So there's definitely something there where it's like, it's not just the person whose logs it belongs to, whose logs it is that you're invading their
yeah.
privacy. It's everybody they've ever messaged or has messaged them.
Which is why you can see that the angst on Lieutenant, what was her name, Aquiel.
Unari, yeah.
Yeah, when she was just dealing with the whole realization that he just went through all of her personal logs. You saw that moment. There was like a good 10 seconds of pause and reflection and like, oh wow, this is. And I think she actually said the words, "I feel exposed," and and so I'm thinking, what other personal things were also, not in the episode, but would be
Mm-hmm.
included in this kinds of forensic
Totally.
analysis of your data, right?
Mm-hmm. What if he's watching this and it's her sister going, hey, so that rash on my butt, I tried putting that, like, or maybe
like
she's
all
telling,
kind of crazy stuff.
yeah. And Jordy's just sitting there with popcorn. He's making himself comfortable on her bed, petting her dog, wearing her slippers, watching her stuff, rewinding. I'm like, dude, obviously we're making a joke, we're making light of it. He was doing what he had to do, but it is an interesting situation. It is something where you go like, this is kind of uncomfortable.
Yeah, it is uncomfortable. And the funny thing is, they had a line there with Riker and Geordi. Geordi's Riker's like, well, how much do you got to go through? And he's like, I still got 3 days. There's 3 more days worth of stuff, right? And you could tell he's looking forward to it, like binge watching a Netflix show.
He's like, I'm on season 4. I got 3 more seasons to go, dude. It's really getting good, man. Don't take me away from this, please.
Please don't take me away from this. And then it made me think, Geordi would be the last person assigned to this kind of thing. It would be Data you would assign to this.
Oh, you're so right. Because he could just put on like times 100 speed and just say, Captain, I've got it all. I understand.
Yeah. And not be emotionally attached to it, right? So he would be like, oh, I know everything. I know about this. I know about this. There was a Klingon named this. And he would be the person to actually go through it at supersonic. 3 more days. We're gonna watch Geordi sit there with his popcorn. Like, can you imagine? He gets Riker or the captain walk in on him while he's watching it, and he kind of jumps up like, "Oh!" He's like, "You caught me doing something." I mean, it's like, Geordi, chill.
Yeah, but that's a good point about Data too. Is that he wouldn't get emotionally invested, and also it would feel a lot less like invasion of privacy if you have an AI just going through looking for keywords basically, or deciphering things, because it's not like an actual person or somebody with emotions that, that's a really good point. And I hadn't thought of that, but that would pretty much end the episode in like 3 minutes. So it would end the episode. That'd be pretty interesting. Like, we've assigned Commander Data to this, and then commercial break, he comes back, he says, sir, I suspect I know who the real killer is. The dog.
Exactly. It would be a very short episode, but in the interest of, I thought for Geordi's sake, just filling out his character, giving him some actual. This is so this is what I noticed about this. This is actual romance with chemistry.
Mm-hmm.
So every time we've seen him, he's had zero chemistry with the other person, who's always either combative with him or not receptive to him. They just not feeling him, and it's like trying to approach somebody who's completely not into you or doesn't want to be talked to. It's like
no idea pushing what that's yourself. Like.
Yeah, sure.
It sounds uncomfortable.
But it's like, if there's no reception there, if there's no reciprocation, then you're making yourself look like an idiot, right? You're just digging yourself a deeper hole if you're walking up to somebody who doesn't want to be approached, and you try to continuously force yourself on them. Then you're going to look really abrasive and aggressive, and it becomes less and less attractive. You just continuously become less attractive, which is what Geordi has. We've seen him in that situation, where he's
poor guy.
Always he's in a situation where he likes somebody, they're not really feeling him, and he's trying to force it even more. And the more
trying to dig yourself out of the hole, but you're digging in deeper. Yeah. But
but in this case,
yes,
it was actually the good news is this was actually the smoothest LaForge I've seen. He
was even suggestive they were very suggestive with each other a couple times there.
And what I liked about it was he was genuine in his trying to understand and defend her. I thought that came across in his performance. And I also felt like he wasn't overtly fawning over her. I think that's also kind of an unattractive thing, when people just become too much of a fawn or too attached. And so he was actually very casual, having conversations, being honest about going through her files and saying I had to do it. It's my, what I'm asked to do, and just having really genuine conversation with her, trying to get to know her perspective and her side. And I thought this was a very natural, believable progression in relationship for them.
Yeah, and also this was also give credit to her as well, because it's not just that sure, there was chemistry, which thank God Geordi had that, but also she was willing to kind of look past the awkwardness. A lot of times if something awkward happens with us upon first meeting somebody, it just, you can't really recover from that. You're just like, I just don't feel comfortable around that person. But she took a moment. She was like, you know what? It's the first mostly normal guy I've spoken to in a long time. Let's talk it out a bit more. And he turned her around real quick, or she turned around real quick on him. Suddenly, that's always the toughest thing, is convincing us that the two people basically fall for each other in 43 minutes, because this was even faster. This was like 6 minutes. She went from like, I don't know you, to like touching his face and stuff. I was like, whoa, Helene, don't mess around. Like she was like, all right, this guy's cool. This guy's nice.
Well, the thing that was believable about this situation for me was this. Clearly, she had been in a traumatic situation,
totally,
that traumatized her mentally, because she admitted to having blocks of memory missing. Right, she didn't know certain things, so that's a extensively traumatic situation causes that, where you have this amnesia or this blockage of memory. So that was one factor. The other factor was her being accused of this murder. And so now she's a suspect and people are suspicious of her. And she feels like, everyone is against her.
She needs a friend.
She needs a friend,
mm-hmm.
right? An advocate, a friend, somebody that she believes her. And I think that's where I believe the switch in the tone that was believable for me was when she said to him, do you believe me? And I thought he gave an honest, yes, I do believe you answer. And that's when she realized she had somebody who she can trust, or have somebody she can confide in, and have this kind of, because she was very forthcoming on everything she felt like either she knew or didn't know.
That's a very good point. That's a lot of times, in a lot of ways, the number one most important thing is, do you believe me? Whether it's a traumatic experience, whether it's you need to be defended about something, whatever it is, the number one thing is, do you believe me? And man, does that ever change a situation if somebody believes you or doesn't believe you. So that's I think that's a really good point. And of course, Geordi did believe her. And thank God he ended up being right. Wouldn't you, like, if it ended up, it looked for a while like it was going to be her that did it, and we started thinking, man, Geordi. But thank God he was validated this time,
Yes, thank God he was, because he started to like turn on Riker.
Oh yeah,
right. Like he was
getting in between them.
Yes,
you have to get through me, bro.
Yeah, he became Johnny Cochran all of a sudden. He was like, I'm defending my client. This is my case. And so Riker's like, yo, I think you're being a little bit too emotional, Jordan. I think, and maybe you want to stop seeing her on a personal level. This is, just as a friend, I'm telling you, because you're getting emotionally attached. And then what was Jordy's response to that? He says, I'm not the one making judgments, or something to that effect.
Yeah, that was actually good, but that was also like the most childish we've seen Geordi react since him fighting with Wesley Crusher. But we felt it, because he's like, he said, she may be impairing your judgment, or Riker said something about it. He's like, well, I'm not the one passing judgments. It seemed kind of a little child, but I'm like, but I was there with them. Like I felt, I'm like, yes, you let him know he said, drop the ranks. So you're allowed to say whatever you got to say. It doesn't have to be professional. It doesn't have to be perfect. And he threw it in his face, and Riker ate it, and maybe had something to think about, because he was right.
Well, and also, to Geordi's credit, just before he made that line to him about the judgment, right? I'm not the one who's making judgments. He tells Riker's like, hey man, I think you're like trying to like, you're taking her side or something. And he says, if she's innocent, I want to help her prove it.
Yep.
That was it. And he said it very calmly. It wasn't even like, I thought the tone was perfect in the delivery, as far as the way he delivered that line. It was really heartfelt. It was a perfect tone. It actually, to me, sounded like he was talking to a friend. It was like, it wasn't a rank thing. I felt the friend vibe there. So yeah, I did like the way he delivered that. But essentially, he's saying, if she's innocent, I want to help her prove it. And there are several moments in which Geordi confronted her about truth telling, right? And I felt like she gave truthful answers, because when he, kind of probe even farther, she just kept being more truthful. You can kind of tell when somebody's lying. And the example of that is when he caught her.
Oh, shit, you can?
Yeah, we could tell, right?
Every time?
Not every time.
Oh.
But yeah, when he caught her deleting the logs, when he
bad.
caught her deleting logs, it looked real bad. I was like, oh god, she's definitely playing him and covering her tracks at the same time. And but then when he confronts her, she's like, yeah, I did delete. Like, she didn't run away from it. She said, yeah, I did do it. And by the way, that was the great way they did this. They used obfuscation. So we kept, everybody admitted to the thing that they did. The Klingon that they brought on and said, hey, when Data questioned him and said, did you delete the file? Did you take the files, the codes, the messages? He's like, yes, I did take the messages, but nobody was there. Okay, so he admits to that.
Eventually.
Eventually.
But that's also what, the guilty people do. The ones that end up they go like, were you there? No. Or they go, were you there? No, I don't have to answer to you. Were you there? No. Okay, we know you were there. Okay, fine, I was there, but I didn't do anything. Well, we know you were there and you deleted the log. Okay, I was there, I deleted the log, but I didn't kill anybody. But at least they were willing to say, and that just makes us, again, flip-flop on who we think it really is. So that's really good, because we think, okay, it's probably her. And then the Klingon says a couple of things and we go, oh, well, maybe it was the Klingon. He admits to what he did. He's like, I was just checking up on them or something. Come on, bro. Nobody believes that. No, you weren't concerned. But you know what?
Yeah, I did. I thought that was great writing for keeping us guessing, because I was guessing. Like, I was more leaning towards this girl, because it was like, Geordi, you're getting played. It's also
because the Klingon felt like it was too obvious of an answer,
Now that Geordi's poor choices is the reason why I thought it was going to end badly for him. I was like, this guy, he makes the wrong choice all the time,
He's
especially when it comes to women. Yeah.
So also on that note, we got to jump to our break here, but there was somebody else that was suspiciously absent that could have made this a 3-minute episode too. But we'll get to that in just a second. We'll be right back on The Seventh Rule. Hello, everybody. Welcome back to The Seventh Rule with Sirach Lofton.
Hello.
This is time for, where'd they go? The Trivioids of the week. The Enterprise has arrived at a communication relay station near the Klingon border. Geordi likes to start by repolarizing the interface. Lieutenant Rocha and Lieutenant Unari have rigged a memory module. Lieutenant Rocha is rude, arrogant, and condescending, theoretically. Morag has been getting more and more aggressive lately. Aquiel, it autocorrected to squeal, but I'm sure that's Aquiel misses Muskin Seed Punch. Worf finds Klingon DNA. Keith Rocha had 2 decorations for valor and 3 outstanding evaluations from his previous commanders. And there's an opening for a level 2 specialist. All right. So, Data would have made this a 3-minute episode.
Yeah.
Counselor Troy would have made this a 3. This is another time where she was just, and she looked really good in the one scene she was in. Like, she got like one line, but like, honestly, sometimes you just kind of watch one person. Somebody else was talking, but I was still watching her, and she was giving really good looks and doing her thing. I'm like, way to not take a day off. You know, like, she only really had one day that week to work, 1 or 2 lines. It would have been forgivable in a way for her to just kind of phone it in, but she didn't. I was actually really proud. I was like, oh, way to just show up and say, all right, fine. This is, I'm still going to nail this episode, even if my role is diminished. But of course, if it weren't diminished, she would say, Captain, I sense they're both telling the truth, but I don't trust the dog. End credits.
Yeah, end credits. Yeah, I mean, like, there's, you know, we can find the ways that they can solve these a lot easier. Definitely, Troy's an underutilized character.
Yeah.
And really, I would like to see her, you know, the way they used the therapist in The Sopranos. I thought that would have been a better use of her in this show. Essentially, let her be somebody that different personnel come and confide to every once in a while.
Mm-hmm.
Just like they have a captain's log, they can have a moment, a scene dedicated to mental health of one of the Starfleet personnel or guests on the ship. And that way we see her dealing one-on-one with people and individuals, and we get to reveal things about the character that we didn't know because they're sitting on that sofa with her, you know, kind of bearing their soul. So I think I would like to see sessions with Worf in therapy. You know,
That'd be so
I
fun.
can't believe the captain would, you know, just whatever it is.
Every time I suggest to destroy something, they just say no, but they never try destroying it first and then deciding.
Yes. Yes. And that would be funny to me, just a small clip of scenes like that. But yeah, we get what we're dealt with. And, you know, another person that was suspicious to me was the other Klingon.
Yeah.
Because, you know, again, he comes on really, you know, defiant, and I will not cooperate. And then Galron's name gets flexed.
That was
and he's
great.
Like, Galron, you know Galron?
And he's like, no, but don't even worry about it. It's totally fine. We'll just go talk to you. Well, what? Well, not Galron. Don't worry yet. Thank you so much. We appreciate it. Don't worry. We'll go talk to Galron. Picard was such a little snooter about that. He was,
and I love that.
He was being a dick to that guy, but it worked.
Yeah, he was purposely playing poker with him, and he was like, "No, that's fine. I'll just talk to Galron." And there was a look that he gave Riker as he had his back face to the monitor, and the guy's like, "Well, no, actually," and he looks at Riker like, "Told you,
got him,
got him." So I love those. I love that writing. It's just it's fun for me. It's good writing for the captain.
So here's something that makes this episode somewhat legendary. This is an episode that I feel like I've only watched once, a long time ago, maybe twice. Doesn't really stand out in my mind. I remembered the solution. I remember that the dog changed into something. I remember that the dog was the villain in a way, you know, the key character. Yeah. Oh, by the way, the Klingon was Governor Torak. But here's what makes it kind of an important episode in Star Trek lore. Number one is she is Hellian. And we have seen other Hellians in Star Trek. We've seen one a bunch of times in Lower Decks, you know, because they got like the bumpy things on their head. We
Yeah.
also had there was like a Helms officer on Star Trek Picard season 2 or 3 that was a Hellion as well. I'll look that up. So we've seen Hellions a couple
Aliens.
times, and then there was one, and people in the comments correct me on this one. I'm trying to remember. I
Did
think it
we know
was
they were
like,
telepathic?
yeah, yeah,
Okay.
and I think it was like Discovery season 2 or Picard season 1. It was something that came out a few years ago. And it was a guy playing somebody's like boyfriend, and they were like in an apartment, and they were trying to escape from something, and he died or something like that. Anyway, I don't remember it too well, and I need to brush up on my recent Star Trek history. But a lot of people theorized that this guy was a Hellion because, he looked similar. I don't remember if he had the forehead things. I think the verdict ended up being that he was not Hellion, but he did have like telepathic abilities. So everybody remind us in the comments below, who was that? It was like he was only in like one episode or like 2 scenes or something. But that's another Hellion. Another thing that was big with this one was Picard season 3. Geordi LaForge has 2 daughters, but they don't mention who the mom is. A lot of people said they think it's Aquiel. Now, in order for it to be Aquiel, the daughters would have had to have little bumps on their forehead, so probably not her. So other people thought maybe it was Leah Brahms. Maybe he ended up hooking up with her finally. But Picard, season 3, intentionally never divulged the information on who the mother was. So we don't know. But that's just a tie-in to Picard season 3 and this. So many people kept thinking, oh my God, what if it's Aquiel? What if their mom's Aquiel? But we never got that answer, and we never will.
I think it is. I think it is.
Could be.
Because we don't know that if they were to have kids, that the kids would definitely have the bump.
Totally. It could be like this recessive gene or something like that, right? That where it just comes out, that they're full-blooded or whatever.
Yeah, I think so. It's possible. There was a moment there, when Worf says, "Have the courage to admit your mistakes." I thought that was hilarious when he said that, because they were going back and forth, him and the other guy, and he says, "You patak," which is hilarious when they do that. But
when they try to cuss each other out in Klingon.
Yeah, I love the Klingon cuss outs. But yeah, I also like the way Governor Torak kind of showed us in the moment of his own character when Commander Morag was being grilled, and they said, "Yeah, you did take the codes," and he admitted to doing that. Picard asks, he requests to Governor Torak that Morag stays on the ship, right? He says, "I'd like him to stay on the ship while we investigate this matter." And Governor Torak reveals his own morality and says, "Take him." Right? He doesn't say, "No, he's a Klingon, and his rights, and this is not fair. This is not fair, and he didn't do anything." He was like, "No, you know what? Based on what I've heard, there's enough reasonable suspicious there that would qualify this man to be a suspect." And he did the right thing by saying, "Picard, I allow you to, hold him while you investigate." That to me showed Klingon class.
Oh, I like that with a K. Klingon class.
Yeah, that was Klingon class right there.
There's something I wanted to bring up too, and it's way off the beaten path here, but yet again, a character's name was pronounced differently at least 3 times, at least 3 different ways. First, Riker says Morag for that Klingon. Okay. Then, I think then the governor guy, Torak, called him, or Worf called him Morag. And then the other Klingon governor called him Morag. I'm like, dude, you guys, it's like 5 letters. You guys, I know for a fact, and Sirach, you can back this up, that there's a pronunciation guide in the back of the script.
Yeah.
How did 3 people call him, pronounce his name completely differently within like 5 minutes? And then Riker even changed the way he pronounced. At first, Riker called him Murag, and then later on, he called him Morag. You guys kill him. But they're like, whatever, you're making up words. We don't freaking know how to pronounce them. Leave us alone. It's
Nobody
Friday.
cares. And it's funny because I wonder, one thing I've never really heard on this show is somebody correct someone else for how they pronounce their name. Mm-hmm. Right? So like, it's Morag, right? And then somebody says Morag, and you're like, no, actually it's Morag. Like, it just correct them. Mm-hmm. And that would be a real kind of like natural flow of a conversational kind of feel to it, right? Because everybody's like, just lets somebody mispronounce their name and just butcher it, right? If I called you Rian, hey, Rian, you would say, actually, it's Ryan.
Sounds like a Star Wars name. I like it.
I'd be like, oh, sorry, I misread it. I thought it was Rian. I don't know.
Rian Grindo.
You would correct it naturally. You would correct somebody, though, is what I'm saying.
Yeah.
You would just naturally.
Oh, it's Ryan. I get the Brian thing a lot, and if I go, the best is when they go, oh, what's your name? Ryan. Oh, hey, Brian. No, it's Ryan. Brian. Okay, hey, Brian. I'm like, okay, I'm moving on. Fine. Yeah, I'm Brian. I got to move on. But there was one thing along those lines that was done for what feels like the first time in Star Trek. And it was actually refreshing to me. It was when Blazing Bev, Beverly Crusher, says to Picard, like, oh, it's a coalescent organism. Do you know anything about coalescent organisms? And in Star Trek, what do they always say? They always say, oh, weren't those outlawed in the 26th century? Or they say, oh yeah, a little bit at Starfleet Academy, or yeah, they always have something. It's like, we get it. They're smart. Doesn't mean everybody knows everything about everything. It was refreshing. She said, do you know anything about coalescent organisms? Picard says, no. Thank you. It's okay to say no sometimes. It's okay to say, I don't know. And when he said that, it immediately felt refreshing to me. I'm like, yes, thank you. Just say, I don't know. And it also makes it a lot easier for the viewers because, or you know what it is a lot of times? Like Picard or someone will say, yes, of course. And then Worf will be like, I do not know that. They're like, the security officer bonehead over here.
Exactly.
But it makes it easier then for us to know what it is, because then Beverly tells him, oh, well, it's this, this, and that. And we're like, thanks, Picard. That's all we needed to know. That was nice.
Yeah, it was pretty good. I thought Beverly Crusher was good in this episode too. She had some good moments in this. Kind of really good, believable stuff. Yeah, there's some good moments in here.
I'll tell you a few of the good moments on my end here. Number one, first of all, a bad moment, something we all wondered about, and it finally happened. Geordi kisses a girl, and his visor is like smearing all over her face, and I'm like, because I wondered when they were coming in, I was like, how's she gonna? Is she gonna bump that visor? And nope, she just went right in. That visor's just like scraping her fucking eyebrow and makeup off, and I'm like, okay, I guess that's just what they work with. I feel like at some point they must have asked like the director, like, do I just? And the director's like, yeah, just go in and give butterfly kisses
to your forehead.
Yeah, to his visor. Why not tilt your head? I don't know. I feel like it would be weird. It's like if you wear glasses and the person you're kissing also wears glasses. Sometimes it's like clink, clink. You're like, oh, let's take our lightsabers off or whatever. But anyway, that was just kind of I was like, oh,
well, this is Geordi's first kiss, so he doesn't, you give him some time.
That's what I'm saying. I'm like, oh no, poor Geordi, man. You just, this girl, and she's going to go back and tell her friends, yeah, he was cool, but I don't know. What is it, girl? You could tell us. His visor was always scraping my forehead every time I tried to kiss. It's just, you know. Anyway.
That's too much, man. That's crazy. Yeah, give him some time. He's just getting used to it. He hasn't, you know.
Yeah.
And then I also thought it was crazy
But
when
there's also that. That one
when she,
I had to text to Sirach because I was like, I'm not saying that one. But anyway, go on.
no, she pulls out the Kanar,
I know. That was the
and
part that
I'm
I
like,
said was
oh god,
suggestive.
here we go with the Kanar, and she says it'll help deepen our love connection. And I'm
Well,
like Viagra.
wor- worse than that, you know what he said? He says, "Oh, I was wondering what that was for." I was like, "Whoa, everybody just relax, Star Trek. This is Star Trek. You need to say that line in a different way. You need to be like, "Oh, I
Yeah.
was wondering what that was for." But he went, "Oh, I was wondering what that was for." I was like, "Everybody cold shower right now. Director Cliff Bowl, you need to readjust what's going
Yeah,
on here."
I was like, this is really this is a Jordy episode.
Yeah. No, of course, actually, maybe I'm being too harsh. If that was Riker that said that, we would just be like, that's Riker being Riker. So I don't know why I'm being so hard on Geordi for talking like that.
Well, because he watched all our videos and kind of was like, he's
That's true.
invested. He was like really microscope investigating your life, so it kind of looks a little bit strange that he's even like, what's this and what's that, and he was going through our drawers and everything. So
Mm-hmm. Okay.
I think it's
Yeah.
crazy.
Also, I wanted to point out, what did you think about their outfits in the final scene? Because I always am fascinated by like the styles where they like when it's early Next Generation, it's like 80s version of futuristic styles. Deep Space Nine, I mean, you know all about it. It's 90s versions of futuristic styles. But this one didn't really feel 90s, what they were wearing. She had like the snakes around her arm stuff and like a little side that kind of popped. It didn't really feel very much like 90s. In fact, it kind of reminded me a little bit of what we see on like Strange New Worlds and new things like that. And Geordi was pimping in his army green, I think it was,
Yeah, I have
sweater,
that
but
same outfit.
of
I have
course.
that one. Yeah, I was like, Jordy's wearing a Jake outfit. That's what I thought.
Yeah.
I was like, this is a Jordy Jake outfit
You got a
because
hand me
he's got his
down.
own. Yeah, he's got one. I didn't know he shopped at Garrick's too,
Nice.
uh, but yes, no, I thought that was pretty cool. I like the outfit. I wrote it down in my notes as something that was interesting because it stood out. I thought hers looked more like. Uh, I think it looked like like a Bajoran. I think seen Nana
Interesting.
wear something similar with the arm wrap type thing.
Good point.
Maybe as the intended, she was wearing something similar to that or something. But um, I liked it. Did you get? I also got vibes. We didn't talk about this, but I got vibes of the Changeling. I thought this was going to
Oh,
be a Changeling.
completely. I thought you would too, because that looked like a changeling. It looked like an early, if they
Yeah,
can change the trill completely, they can change the color of the changeling a little bit. And it acted like it looked like it. Yeah, totally.
I was like, oh, this is the same time as DS9. Maybe they're trying to
Connect them,
introduce the
yeah.
changeling as a species, so just to get people familiar with the idea that they exist in the world. I thought that's where they were going to go with this because the way it was morphing and the way it replicated Beverly's hand, like, well, how is that not like changeling type attributes? And so it would have been interesting if they did go with that kind of early introduction to the changeling and just slip it into this episode. Um, that would have been some real like deep dive kind of like 3D 4D chess for Star
Would
Trek.
have been pretty impressive, yeah.
Yeah, because it would have been a real early nugget to plant a seed this early before we actually get to see the Dominion and all of this other stuff. But
Absolutely.
it would have foreshadowed Odo's kind of background and stuff like that.
Yeah.
Maybe
No, it
too
would have been
much
really
so.
cool. We got to get to the home run of today's episode. Also, I wanted to mention, just kind of popped in my head early on in this episode, we haven't seen Nurse Ogawa in a while, and I kind of missed her. Would have been cool to see her in this episode. Okay, who gets... There it is. Who gets the home run of the episode today, Sirach Lofton?
I think the home run goes to LeVar Burton and his performance as Geordie LaForge. There were moments there that I thought were great for his performance range. He got to show me something that I kind of don't get to see out of Geordie. One is the defensiveness that he had with Riker when he kind of stood up for her and said, "Hey, I'm not the one that's being judgmental."
Yeah.
And also said that, he wants to prove her innocence. If she's innocent, he wants to help her prove it because he doesn't want to see somebody who's killed innocent go to, be charged for something they didn't do. And the other moment there was when he caught her in the moment when he caught her deleting the files, and she kind of admitted to it, and he raised his voice with her, or his temper, just slightly, and he says to her, "Then explain this."
Mm-hmm.
And the way he said it, I thought was fantastic. It was a great delivery. It was super. He wasn't playing around, and it was just well delivered. So yeah, LeVar Burton is the home run hitter of this episode.
Yeah, I have to agree with that. LeVar Burton, home run of the episode for me. They didn't give him a ton to work with, but this was a Geordie episode. He had very little technobabble, so he couldn't impress us and wow us with that. He had to just kind of be a genuine guy with faults, with beliefs, with weaknesses, with integrity. He was a person, and it felt nice to see him being a person rather than just a guy that's really good at technobabble and solving problems. And this time he hit the home run instead of struck out, actually. So that's pretty good. Okay, good stuff. So here are the trivioids, not the trivioids, the people that we want to thank, and they are not trivial. Their names are Dr. Anne-Marie Siegel, Eve England out in Wales, Yvette Blackman Tom, TJ Jackson Bay out in Missouri, Titus Muller, Dr. Mohammed Noor, Anil O. Palat, Joe Balsarati, Mike Goo, Dr. Stephanie Baker, Carrie Schwent, Faith Howell, the Matt Boardman, Chris McGee, Jake Barrett, Henry Unger, Allison Leach Hyde, Julie Manosfi, Jed Thompson, Dr. Susan V. Gruner, Glenn Iverson, Dave Gregory, Chris Sternett, Greg K. Wickstrom, Cassandra G., Chuck A., Chris Garris, and of course, Jason M. Oken, quite frankly. All right, everybody stick around. We've got the free-for-all up next. We will be right back on the seventh rule. Hi there, everybody. Welcome back to the seventh rule with Sirach frickin' Lofton.
Yeah,
This
hello.
is the free-for-all with Melissa Longo.
Hello.
And Carrie Schwent, a.k.a. Crafty Bear. We also have Chris Garris out in Southeast Texas.
Hello.
Allison Leach Hyde in the heart of New Mexico. Chris Garris is the Dark Lord.
Really? No, he's
Sorry,
not.
Chris McGee is the Dark Lord. And I was just thinking, like, you've had that Ukraine flag on you every single time. Good commitment there.
I try.
And the Matt Boardman is here wearing his family shirt.
Hello, hello, hello.
All right. Jake Sisko guesses the IMDb score.
Probably like a 7.5.
Does anybody else have any guesses that doesn't already know?
I'm gonna say a 6.1.
I was the one who was 6.6.
Does anybody else have any guesses that doesn't already know? All right, that's
Drum
everybody.
rolls.
Sirach, I'm sorry to tell you. 6.0.
Oh, I was so close.
You were very close.
Yeah, you were.
Yeah.
You were very close. But when Sirach,
6.0.
I was very surprised by this too. And I had a feeling, I was like, I'm not going to say anything, but I have a feeling Sirach's going to guess higher than it is because I guessed higher than it was by a long shot too.
Yeah.
Non-appearance mention. I got one, Gowron, of course. Were there any others?
Right.
No. All right.
Not that I can think of.
It's so weird when it gets so quiet here. It's like I freak out. It's like I lose my place. I don't know what to do. All right. Any some kinds of or some sorts of Chris McGee?
For the third time in a row, I think. No, I didn't catch any.
Whoa.
Oh, that's some sort of
They're
record. Melissa Longo, will you please get us started off on the right track by telling us what you thought of this episode?
I give you a hand. I just anyway, it didn't work. I was trying to do jokes like Ryan did, but it didn't work. Oops. What did I think of this episode? I'm gonna be honest, it's not a favorite of mine. I don't remember this episode until I watched it. And maybe I needed to watch it 2 times. I didn't have time to watch it twice. But I will say a positive note. I really enjoyed how Geordi says pooch. Hey pooch, hey pooch.
Yeah.
I love
weird.
that. Hi pooch. Hi pooch. But I'll tell you the main problem that I had with this episode. And it probably had to do with the dog and how it was used pretty much just as background for the whole time. And it was kind of obvious why at the end they used the dog. Very obvious. And I have a bone to pick with Aquiel. Because she left the dog behind and saved herself. And any pet owner, cat, dog, doesn't matter what kind of animal it is, those pets, animals are part of our family. If we bring them into our home, we're accepting the responsibility of their safety and wellness just as much as our own. The dog didn't choose to go into space. The dog didn't choose to be on the space station. The dog didn't have any choice in its location. And it's like bringing a child onto a station. You're not going to leave the child behind because you are in danger. Of course, the dog's going to be in danger just as much as you. So I was like, why are you going to leave the dog behind? Any owner would not think twice about running into a burning building to save their pets. So, and maybe I'm crazy, but as an animal lover, Mochi's coming with me. Doesn't matter. Mochi is coming with me. She is being rescued. I'm not going to let her get slaughtered by this wacky wild monster that can replicate me. So yeah, it just, and so that just dissolved the whole episode for me because it was just, and then Geordi says, "Oh, you have a friend waiting to see you," and she's like, "Oh, really? Who? Who? Of course, it's the dog. I mean, she didn't really care about the dog one bit." And then it's like, yeah, I don't know. It just frustrated me. This episode frustrated me, and I usually like a good mystery, but this one frustrated me a lot.
Mystery, more like mistreatment of animals. Thank you very much, Melissa Longo. Carrie Schwent, Crafty Bear. What's up? What'd you think of this one?
It's
it's an okay episode. I don't hate it. It's okay. There was a decent amount that I did enjoy. Specifically, Renee Jones, who plays Aquiel. I literally grew up watching her on Days of Our Lives, where she played Dr. Lexi Carver for 3 decades, a grand total of 1,752 soap opera episodes. She was awesome on that show. When she left Days of Our Lives, I guess she retired from acting at that point. Which, when you've been on a soap for 30 years, you've definitely earned your retirement. I enjoy her a lot. By the end of the episode, with her and Geordi, I came up with a revised headcanon that it is my headcanon that she is Sydney and Alondra's mom, not Leah Brahms. I believed how cozy they were with each other at 10 Forward at the end, so I decided to update my headcanon. She is the girl's mom, even though we never hear what mom's name is, but that's my headcanon. Feel free to join me there if you like. The dog, actually, when I was looking up on IMDb, is also a soap opera veteran. Friday is the dog's name, and she was on a few episodes of General Hospital, which of course I love. You know me, you guys. I love my soaps. So knowing she was on General Hospital for a while is very cool. I don't have a specific memory of her on that the way I do with Renee, but still very cool. So very cool soap opera connection. One other thing, I have a tiny bone to pick with Commander Riker. I realize that you think she's not the real Aquiel, and you got to go rescue Geordi and whatnot. But if you're going into somewhere that is, someone's home, her Aquiel's quarters, knock first. It completely interrupted her and Geordi. It's a good thing none of that had gotten any further along. You knock first. And on a related note, which will come up again in season 7, if you know, you know. If you knock first, make sure someone answers the door before you go inside. More on that next season. But for the limerick, I struggle with it a little bit, trying to decide where to come from it. And then I was watching it again, and the Klingon guy that would stop by the relay station and harass them once a week. I loved his whole, I didn't do it. What are you picking on me for? So I decided to make the limerick about him. I demand justice. I'm falsely accused. Klingons are not so easily abused. I did not kill that guy. All I took was some files. I'll just sit in the brig until I'm excused.
Thank you very much, Carrie Schwent, aka Crafty Bear, #1 Cubs fan. Chris Garris.
I gotta go back to the game, so I'll see you guys later.
All right.
Bye.
It's in progress. Go, Gabby.
Good luck, since the Giants are out. All right, Chris Garris, what is up? What did you think of this one?
Now I remember why I don't usually watch this episode. It's not the best. I'm trying to think what I want to say here versus things left unsaid, but I'm just going to say this. I don't think the writers knew how in the world to write for Geordi. Why do they have to always give him every now and then the ick factor when it comes to relationships? But, I was looking at this image behind me, and I was kind of curious about. I was like, wait a second, when did this one come out, and why it looks so much like a changeling? Because this episode came out January 30th of '93, and Emissary came out January 3rd. So I was like, okay, but it's not the best episode. That's a rock. Yeah, it's got a lot of ick factor. Trying to think what to say positive about it. I'm just having a hard time.
Thank you very much, Chris Garris. Well, you could close out by saying January 3rd was a great day. Right, Melissa?
Yes, it was.
It was a great day.
It was a great day. But yeah, it's something I would, if you don't, it's definitely one I will skip every now and then.
Mm-hmm. All right. So basically what he's saying to everybody is check out Things Left Unsaid. It's going to be real juicy. He's going to tell us some good stuff. Thanks very much, Chris Garris. Allison Leachhide, cool shirt. What's up? What'd you think of this one?
Yeah, it's not a favorite either. I have a hard time when they have Geordi fall in love with representations of women and not the actual. And like he's smarter than that. Like he would still need to like actually talk to her. And here he is, you know, she's supposed to be dead. He's going through her personal logs and letters. That's again, I mean, she reacted correctly to there was a bit of an invasion of privacy, understandably done, but still like, oh yeah, no, I was dead. You know, like that's, or everyone thought I was dead. So, you know, that's hard, you know, that they keep doing that to Geordi. I understand that the writers were trying to bring in a new like love interest for a character because Miles and Keiko were gone. So now this ship is populated by a bunch of single people again. So I understand that. I'm glad they did not continue with this particular character for that. And I'm also sad that Geordi didn't get the dog because that was actually the first story idea was that he was going to get the dog. And that would have been great because then he'd have a puppy and Data would have a cat and then they could try and make them friends. And it would be great TV to watch those all interact that way. So yeah, it's not my favorite. Also Riker kind of makes me mad in this episode. Like she was attacked. Can you not be so like mean to her? Yes, in the end, we're not sure if she's human or this coalescent microbe being thing, but still, you're being kind of a douche. Like, let's be a little bit kinder here in this situation. So, I understand they were trying to go for like a film noir Laura mystery, but I think they could have been a little bit. There could have been a little bit more like finesse in making this story more enjoyable to watch for some of us. Oh, and Deanna should have been talking to Aquiel a lot more. Like she doesn't remember anything. Fact, like this is where she would shine. So again, maybe having her more involved in this story. So yeah, that's how I feel about it, unfortunately.
Good stuff. Thank you very much, Allison Leach-Hyde. More on that later as well. Chris McGee, what did you think of this one? Did you love it? You probably did, right?
I'm sorry to disappoint you, Ryan. I go Chris Garris and Allison. It's not a favorite. It's the midway episode of the season and is widely regarded as the weakest entry. Now, I think the premise is a good one. It has all the hallmarks of a great mystery story. You know, an investigator gets personally involved with one of the suspects. There's a surprising twist at the end, etc. But at the risk of upsetting the Matt, I think where this episode falls a bit flat is the lackluster effects at the end. CGI was still in its infancy at the time, and directors were limited in how they could shoot the clean plates for it, so it comes off very rigid and static rather than dynamic and tense. Even in the HD remastered version, it isn't improved much, and that's not to slight the team who worked very hard on it. They only had so much to work with in terms of the footage that was shot 20 years earlier, and to keep as close as possible to the original. All that said, I do still think it's a decent enough episode. Of course, I love any episode featuring Geordi LaForge, and this one is well acted. It features some unique cinematographic choices. That's a big word. The plot even reminds me a little of one of my favorite horror films of all time, John Carpenter's The Thing, which also features a coalescent organism. And by the way, still holds up incredibly well today, over 40 years later. Now, if only they had used practical effects on this episode. My one nitpick is that I know the story really only has an impact if Geordi befriends Aquiel and becomes intimate with her. But after what she's been through, I really think she should have spent at least some time with Counselor Troy. And like Allison said, as it is, Troy is barely in the episode with only one word of dialogue. I mean, she may not be a criminal psychologist, but I'm sure she would have had some useful insight to give if only someone asked her. For my memorable quote of the episode, it's basically Geordi. It's a strange one, but it's Geordi when describing Aquiel said she had questionable taste in literature.
Yeah,
Funny.
that was good.
Great stuff. Thank you very much, Dark Lord Chris McGee. The Matt Boardman, welcome back. The Matt, what did you think of this one?
Well, I got to be honest. I have this one on repeat daily. So I'm just kidding. I don't. I do not do that thing. But yeah, it's interesting to go back and when you start to watch these episodes with a more, I don't want to say critical eye, but maybe a more objective eye as to what works and what doesn't work with it. Unfortunately, this is kind of one of those episodes that had a lot of potential, but maybe falls a little short in some of those areas. To Chris's McGee's point about the visual effects. It's interesting when you go in and you do a remaster of things, because there is a very fine line, and this is actually a discussion that I've been having a lot lately, is when you're remastering something, where do you improve it and where do you keep it the same? Because especially when you're dealing with something like the Next Generation, which has effects that people have been watching for, well, decades now, right? And so do you improve it in the sense that we're gonna stay true to what's there, but we're gonna fix maybe some things around it, or are we gonna completely change it because, as Chris pointed out, the technology at the time was limited as to what they could do, but now we can do, we could handle that kind of stuff better. And I think they erred on the side of, let's just keep it the way people are used to seeing it, even if it is from a standpoint of a visual effects artist. You watch it and you're like, oh, I get what you were going for, and I know that you meant well, but it didn't necessarily at the time work, so that's always a challenge whenever you're remastering something. As far as the overall concept of the episode, I'm always just amazed at, but like, by the time we got to Deep Space Nine, it feels like the writers kind of understood more how to write for individual characters than they did on the Next Generation. And I always felt like they always kind of do Geordi dirty when it comes to relationships, because the character Geordi just seems like he is a very compassionate and caring person, and I think that he would be great, in a relationship. I really do. I just, in my heart, I feel like Geordi would be good because he has those qualities, but the writers could not latch on to that and find a way to tell those stories that brought that out without him having the ick factor that people have said, right? So, but I do like the idea of falling in love with the idea of someone, through that he got to know her through her personal logs and everything like that. But anyway, so just wrapping it up, it's an okay episode, but definitely there was room for improvement.
I had so many follow-up questions to that VFX stuff, but we'll have to save it for things left unsaid, because it seems like some long answers would come from them, but lots to ask in a bit. Jake's final take.
Well, I really didn't mind this episode so much, like everybody. I didn't think it was that bad. But I did think there were certain things that are unfortunate about how they wrote it. Like Geordi always kind of not getting off to a good start with a relationship. I thought LaForge had a Jake Sisko outfit on in the last scene of 10 Forward when he was on that date. I've seen that. I have one of those. It's really cool outfit. I wear it for nighttime stuff as well, so he's wearing it right. Did the doggy have a glass bone? Because I want to know where you get those, and I don't know if that's a really smart thing for a glass bone and a dog. But I don't know.
Plastic.
It was a plastic. Okay, I got a little upset when when I saw Jordy kick the dog. I was like, there's like a moment he kicks the dog, like get off of me or something. And I thought, I was like, well, that's a little bit aggressive in that moment. The book Cold Moon Over Black Water which is a gothic fiction book, uh, has a sequel which is Hot Sun Under White Fire. You guys should read it. Um, every time I see the Klingons, I think of Shonuff from The Last Dragon. And this particular Klingon in this episode, Morag, Commander Morag, he really reminded me of Shonuff from The Last Dragon. And many of you who know this, like, it's kind of like a childhood movie, came out in the 1985, I think it was. So I'm pretty sure it came out before Klingons. And just there's some inspiration there about stylistically wardrobe and hair, if you look at it, those of you that know. And then I was also thinking who would be the perfect girl for Data, and for Geordi, and I think it would be Data, a girl version of Data. He needs to ask Dr. Sung if he can just make a girl Data, and that would be perfect for Geordi. They could do science together, they could talk about all that kind of stuff. And then I also thought about today's world that we live in, where it is similar in some ways to what Geordi was doing by looking at personal logs, because now we post our personal logs on social media. And so somebody could just go through all your personal logs and see who you are, what your ideas are, where your stances are on things, where you travel to, what you eat, and so how you dress. I mean, all kinds of things could be learned from your personal logs that you post online. So it's not as intrusive now in this generation, this day and age, as it would have been in 1993 when they made this. And didn't have people having all kinds of access to data and being able to Google and this and that about every single person. So I just think that we actually live in a less private world now, where it's more along the lines of everybody has read your personal logs. So having said that, I actually felt bad for LaForge at the end, because here he is, he fell in love. It seems like she has reciprocal feelings for him, but yet she wasn't willing to take the one tiny step to try to advance this relationship one step farther by saying, hey, why don't you pull a couple strings for me, like you said you were going to get me over here? She was willing to go so many other places and had so much other ambition for herself. And she was actually headed to a Klingon jail or something to that effect, right? So he's offering her a whole life on the Enterprise and in the profession that she likes, doing the field of study she likes. I felt like she just really walked away from an open invitation, and it felt like Geordi got his heart broken again at the very end, because it's like, man, you finally found somebody. It took you all this time, and it was a very flippant kind of, no, I'll do it, on my own merit, one day. And it was just too casual for something that you would think, if they went that step to go through the ritualistic performance that they went through of, making this emotional attachment. I felt like if you're going to take it that far, you pretty much are like mind melded, or, you're locked into an ancestral ritual and all of this other stuff. Seems like it's serious, So I just felt like her walking away at the end, the explanation wasn't good enough. If she said, you know what, I want to go back and visit my sister, I haven't seen her in all this time, and I need to be back with my family, and and go through some healing because I've been through this trauma. I don't remember stuff, and it's just too much. I can get that. That would make sense to me. She says, I'm just going to go back, visit my sister. I need to be with my mom and family, and this whole situation has been too much, but I'll come back and take you up on that offer. Can I get a rain check? That would have been like a nice little ending. We could have never followed up on it, but at least you don't leave the guy with a solid door closed in his face with a hard no. You leave the light open. You kind of leave the hope of there, and it makes sense. She would want to completely get away and just yo, I know everybody here is accusing me of murder, so I need to go somewhere where I'm looked at like a sibling or a child or a friend. So, anyways, yeah, Aquiel did not acquiesce. Yeah, that's very good. So yeah, that ending left me. It was just too light, and it was too throwaway and too casual. It was like one word. Like, no, not really. It just wasn't emotional. So that's my final thing.
Maybe suffered from the mid-season writing blues. Just kind of power through. All right. Well, thanks very much. The Matt Boardman, Chris McGee, Allison Leach Hyde, Chris Garris, Melissa Longo for myself, Sirach, Melissa, Mr. Aaron Eisenberg, that we always remember. Stick around for Things Left Unsaid if you are a patron. If not, become one on patreon.com/the7th rule. Otherwise, we will see you next time. And until then, always remember the 7th rule.